Hey guys, welcome to Rosie's Dessert Spot. In this tutorial I'll be demonstrating how to make the It's a Boy baby shower cake. This was a design that was given to me by my friend, so I'll just show you guys how to make it. It's not my own original design, but I still think it'll be handy for you guys. This is a 7-inch cake that I'm building on a 7-inch cake board, and if you're doing tiered cakes, make sure you always have the cake board underneath the tiered layers. This is a crumb coat that I'm adding around the cake, just to trap in any crumbs and make it easier for us to apply a second coat later. Bring the lip of frosting to the center and pop it into the fridge to set. Follow the same steps for a 9-inch cake, but because it's a bottom tier, I haven't actually got a second cake board underneath this. This cake is sitting directly on that white cake board you can see there. Final layer of frosting here that I'm adding will go underneath the fondant. So I've used buttercream for this. You could also use ganache. Ganache is probably the best medium for fondant cakes. Smooth out the sides and then bring that lip of frosting to the center as we did before. Allow your cakes to set in the fridge for at least half an hour, even overnight if you can, when you're doing fondant cakes. I have white fondant by Bakels and I've rolled it out to about 3mm in thickness. Drape it over your cakes. First step is to push out any air at the top and then seal in those top edges. To put fondant onto your cake, you just have to undo those pleats, pull them apart and massage the fondant onto your cake to make sure that it sticks. Massage the very bottom edge and then cut away the excess fondant. These are fondant smoothers and I'm kind of cupping them at the very top to create a nice sharp edge and smoothing down the sides and the top. This is my 9-inch cake. You can do the exact same thing here following the same steps. Notice how the fondant doesn't quite reach the bottom of the cake. By the time you're done undoing those pleats, it actually reaches far beyond the cake, so it's a very stretchy fondant. Here are some dowels and I'm giving it a twist as I push them in. This is going to support the weight of our top tier, so always have dowels when you're doing tiered cakes. I have some melted chocolate. Don't ask me why it's pink, it was for a different project. And the chocolate is just there to stick the two tiers together. You can also use buttercream for this as well. Pop on your second tier, make sure it's centered, and in the meantime now we'll be creating our decorations. With some blue fondant, I'm just creating little logs. And these are going to create the drapes on our cake. I like to use a fondant smoother to help me to create a very, same size all the way through kind of log. If you were to use just your hands, some sections do always tend out to be a bit thinner than others. Using the fondant smoother in the rolling out process helps to keep it all the same thickness. Cut away the excess right at the top edge of your cake, and I gave it a bit of a massage there so it wasn't so sharp, just to round off the edges. Make sure that it's at the same height as the previous one. Step away from your cake to really be able to tell, and then continue this all the way around. To stick it on, I've just used a brush with some water. Follow the same steps up top. And then to create the pearls, I have a fondant pearl maker here and I've heavily dusted my fondant with some cornstarch to make sure it doesn't stick inside it. Pressing it into the grooves, and then just to make sure it's well and truly in there, I'm rolling the excess on top and pressing it again. I have a metal spatula and just sawing up and down to cut off the excess. Turn your silicone mold upside down and push out your pearls. Attach them with some water around the very edge of your top tier and also around the very edge of your bottom tier as well. If your pearls broke in the mold as you're pushing them out, no stress, you can still add them all and it'll still look like a uniform line. With an elephant cookie cutter, I'm cutting some elephant shapes out of grey fondant and blue fondant. To attach this onto your cake, just use a little bit of water and a brush. I've alternated between the grey and the blue elephants. For the eyes, I have a round piping tip and I'm using the very small side to cut out little holes. And this will create the eye for us. Stick it on with water, and because it's so small, it's a lot easier to handle with the edge of the pin. I'm steaming the cake. This is a handheld steamer that I bought on eBay and it just removes any excess cornstarch on your cake so the colours come out very vibrant. If there's some cornstarch that doesn't want to come undone, just use your brush to brush that off. These are triangle flags I printed onto edible icing sheets. I actually found someone on Facebook Marketplace that provides a service, so you can find them online very easily. And I'm sticking them directly under my little flag holder thing here, the string. Because I did pop the steam all over my cake, it's nice and sticky. Otherwise, just use a very damp brush to stick them on. I also used some for the ears of the elephant as well. To create the plaque, use some grey fondant, roll it out to be a bit thicker, and then a cookie cutter to create the frame. I needed mine to be a little bit skinnier, so I just pressed on the frame until it changed shape. Cut out some white fondant pieces for each letter, and I'm using a letterpress cutter here. Make sure that you go in circular motions to create a nice sharp edge on your letters. Turn it over, put your thumb behind the letter that you want, and with your other hand flick and hit the countertop with the letter cutter. This will release your letters very easily. To stick them on, use some water and the back of your brush to help shape the letter. You can use your hand, but it tends to touch the other letters and shift them around. It's a lot more accurate if you just use the back of a brush to help you. Stick it on the center of your cake with a little bit of water. And now to create our centerpiece, our little elephant. This is grey fondant. You probably want to use gum paste when you're making fondant figurines though. I have a cone for his body and then 4 logs for his feet and his legs and his arms. The section that's going to be sticking onto the body, I've made it much thinner and I've just draped his legs around. This is a number 80 Wilton tip to create his little toes. It's usually a chrysanthemum piping tip anyway. Give it a bit of a press down at the very top where you're going to stick his feet on. That'll be hidden by our bow, so not too worried about the look of it just yet. To create his head, I have a round piece of fondant and I'm pinching until I get his little trunk. It does look like there's a lot of indentation. Just use your thumbs to smooth that out. Or the palm as well to smooth out your fondant. Create a little smile with the number 80 tip, and then for his ears I didn't actually have an ear cutter, so I used a little dress cutter and shaped it with my fingers. Cut off the ends, and then I've used some blue fondant just to add some accents on his ear. I've also indented some holes on his face for his eyes later on. Stick on the ears with some water, and then to create his bow I have long strips of fondant, folding 2 of them over to create the actual bow, and then another strip to hold them all together. Again, just some water to stick everything together. For the bow arms, cut out little inward pointing triangles. And then to assemble him, I have a little dowel to hold his head to his body. Stick it on with a little bit of water underneath his head. And stick on his bow as well. And that hides his skinny little legs. Place some black fondant into the little hole that you created for his eyes. And then pop him on his platform. So that's just thick fondant, then I used a cookie cutter to cut out the platform. Stick on the pearls around him, and we're done.
And that's how you make a baby boy baby shower cake. Thanks guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Much easier to do than it looks. It does take a bit of time though. And if you do replicate it, please do send me a photo. I would love to see what you guys comment as well. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you again on Tuesday.